Hello and welcome to the Key to Empowering Staff with Tax Workflow Automation. This webcast is brought to you by CPA Practice Advisor Magazine and SafeSend. I'm Gail Perry, Editor-in-Chief of CPA Practice Advisor, and I'll be your moderator today. Before we get started, I'd like to explain how CPE for this webcast works. The webcast qualifies for 1 credit of continuing professional education. If you plan to earn CPE for attending this session, you must stay with us for at least 50 minutes. In addition, we will display 5 polling questions during the webcast. You will need to record an answer to at least 3 of the questions, as this is our verification that you are still watching the webcast. You will receive an email by the end of the day today that contains a link to your CPE certificate, assuming you met the requirements for CPE. Please note that we can give CPE credit for multiple people watching on the same computer. So if there are others in your office who would like to attend this event, please have them join you now, and at the end of the event, we'll provide an opportunity for you to send us their email addresses. At any time, you can enter questions in the Ask a Question box provided on your screen, and our speaker will try to get to as many questions as possible during the presentation. Questions not answered during the live broadcast will be addressed by the speaker afterwards in email. The slides for this presentation are available for download. You can click the Event Resources option on the bottom of your screen, and there's a PDF of the PowerPoint presentation. Today we are joined by Mike Koffel, who has the coolest job title I've ever heard, Product Enthusiast at SafeSend. And now we're ready to begin.
Thank you, Gail. Appreciate that introduction. And good afternoon, everyone. Look forward to speaking with you today. Now, today, what we're going to talk about is the key to empowering your staff with tax workflow automation. But to recap what Gail mentioned, our presentation today is 50 minutes. Be sure to answer those questions when the polling questions come up so that you get your CPE credit. Today, what we're going to talk about is a little bit about myself here at SafeSend, who we are and what we do. We'll get to know you a little bit, so we have a feel for who's in the audience and who's watching this today. And we're going to learn about some of the common points of frustration for both staff and clients when it comes to automating things and doing things in a digital environment. We're also going to seek to understand some of the new automation tools that are available and how they can help us out, how we can simplify the client experience, and then we'll kind of wrap up with a short demo of how SafeSend addresses many of the issues that we'll talk about today. Now, as Gail mentioned, if you have questions as we go throughout, my colleague David is standing by to answer your questions, so feel free to put those into the chat. I will cover what I can throughout the presentation, but if we don't get a chance to answer your questions today during the live conversation here, we will follow up with those questions and make sure you get those answers. Now let's start by getting to know who's in the audience. Gail, can we go ahead and launch the first polling question? All right. So we'll just wait a minute here for everybody to get those questions answered. And once we get that result, we'll keep going. But it'll be interesting to see who we have in our group today. Excuse me. And then if you just let me know, and it looks like we've got about everybody answering the question, and then we'll go forward.
Yep, it looks like we've got about a little more than half of our audience is tax, and we're showing 0 audit. However, about 20% say all of the above. So that would include audit, bookkeeping, and jack of all trades, and then about 10% in bookkeeping and other.
Gotcha. Well, fantastic. Well, it's nice to have all of you with us today and the variety of roles that you all represent. And, even though the majority of you are tax, I hope that those of you who aren't can still find something convenient and helpful with their conversation. Now, for those of us that are on the call today, or for those of you attending the call today, we will be, let's see here. All right, there we go. We will be giving out a SafeSend Yeti. So 3 of you in the audience, we're going to randomly draw your names. You'll get a SafeSend Yeti here. These are really nice mugs. They do a great job of keeping your coffee hot or your cold drinks cold if you choose to use them for that. Now, as we get started here, just to give you a little information about who I am as your speaker, my name is Mike Kuffel, and as Gail said, my title is Product Enthusiast. My primary role here at SafeSend is to work with firms that are prospecting our products and determining whether or not it's a good fit for their office and onboarding new firms. So my role really is with product expertise and how companies and firms implement SafeSend and use the product. And that's the reason why I do these presentations. Now, today, when we talk about SafeSend, there's a few products that we make, SafeSend Returns primarily being one of them. It's a tax workflow automation utility, and that's what we're going to take a quick look at later on today. But this is one of the ways that we can help you basically gain efficiencies and address some of the concerns that we're going to talk about when it comes to digital client experiences. And then SafeSend Returns, it's the platform for the SafeSend Suite. So the SafeSend Suite is our tax workflow automation utility. We really want to automate as many of those touch points between your office and your client on a year-round basis as we can. And we'll talk about that a little bit today. Now, when it comes to SafeSend, you can see we've been around for well over a decade now. We've got a number of products that have gone through the market, and our marquee product today is the SafeSend Suite, which really is a automation touchpoint utility. Makes it very simple to get things from you to your clients and back from your clients, whether it be delivering tax returns or monthly financial reports or just documents that clients need to review and sign for you. And this is really where the SafeSend Suite comes in. So like I mentioned, our goal is to have one utility, one platform that you can use for all those functions. And you can see here how the SafeSend Suite really goes throughout your entire tax engagement lifecycle. Now, later on, we'll talk about SafeSend Returns and how it automates your tax return assembly, delivery, and e-sign process. But what we did was we took that signing process we created with the tax returns and built a signing utility off of that. So for you and your clients, it offers you consistency, very similar processes to get things out. On your client's end, it's also consistent. Client gets emails that look nearly identical. They just click on a link, they go through the signing process, and it's the same signing experience regardless of what they're signing. Now, when it comes to signing, a lot of times firms will send out engagement letters. When they do that, they often do that in mass. So Signatures does have a mail merge utility for you there. But some firms will send those engagement letters out with their tax organizers. So with SafeSend organizers, you've got the capability to do that as well. I can go ahead and send that organizer through the system and include the engagement letter. The client will be able to review and sign that as well as complete the organizer. Now, when clients are completing the organizers, they have the ability to upload their documents. But perhaps most importantly is that organizer that the client gets. When it comes to simplifying the client's experience, what we've done is we've taken that same organizer that you would print on paper or send to the client as a PDF, and we just convert it to a fillable PDF. So when that tax organizer goes out to your client, it's the same information they're used to seeing as either, a PDF or paper document, and they've got that familiarity. So it's really just transitioning them from filling it out with pen and paper to filling it out on their computer screen. Now, not all clients get organizers, and not all documents are sent, as part of, call it the tax season environment. And that's where SafeSend Exchange can come in handy. SafeSend Exchange is just a simple file exchange. If a client needs to send me a document, maybe it's a business client looking to send me, a bank report during the middle of a month, I can have them send it to me through SafeSend Exchange. It's a very simple exchange. It's not a client portal. It's just client clicks a link, puts in their email address, their name, has a message box, and then they can send me that file. It sends it to me nice and securely. Or maybe I'm sending a client a payroll report at the end of the month. I can send that through SafeSend Exchange. Client will receive an email, they'll go through a single-step access process, and then they're greeted with a screen that shows them all those items that I just sent to them. All they have to do is download them. So very simple. If your clients struggle with a traditional portal, if they struggle with usernames and passwords, SafeSend Exchange is a great alternative for those clients. Now, rounding out the SafeSend Suite, we have SafeSend Extensions. And SafeSend Extensions does much of what you would expect. We're going to take your extension package and we're going to read that extension. If there's a balance due the client needs to pay, we're going to send the client an automated reminder when that extension comes due. So makes it easy for the client to go ahead and pay that extension balance. Now, also when I'm sending out that extension, if it's going to be a client that also needs to pay quarterly estimates, I can go ahead and include those quarterly estimates with the extension package. As those estimates come due, say in June or September, client's going to get an automated email from us. Hey, you've got 7 days to make your payment to Georgia or New York or New Jersey or California or whatever that state is. Client can click on the link from that email, go directly to that taxing authority's payment page, make that payment. Now, once the return's done and I send it out to the client, SafeSend returns and SafeSend extensions are coordinated. So if I have a third quarter estimate in extensions and a third quarter estimate in SafeSend returns, we're only going to send that reminder email out using SafeSend returns. We're going to not send it from the extension because the return was what was delivered most recently. We expect that that's going to have the more accurate number for the client to pay. Now, Gail, let's go ahead and go to our next polling question here.
Okay, our next question is, which tax software does your firm currently use? And the options are CCH Access or ProSystem FX, Thomson Reuters Go System Tax RS or Ultra Tax CS, Lacert, or something else.
All right, so it looks like right now, as the early numbers come in, we've got a pretty even split between CCH and Thomson Reuters customers, with Lacert coming not too far behind, and a lot of people using something else entirely.
Right. Of course, we do have some audience who include not tax people, so I assume they're picking other.
Yeah, I would assume. But I appreciate you presenting or mentioning that as well, Gail. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. Now it looks like of the tax products listed there, it looks like CCH is in the lead. And folks, for those of you listening in here, what I'll do is when we go through our presentation towards the end, whichever tax product here kind of leads the charge, I'll do a demonstration, focusing on that tax product, because that is what would be most applicable to the majority of people answering this question here.
That sounds cool. It looks like that will be a CCH product.
Awesome. Well, good to know. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Does that look like pretty much everybody's answered, Gail?
I think that's about it.
All right. Well, we'll keep on going then. So when we talk about, empowering comes two different ways, right? We empower our clients, and that helps, them feel better and do the things that they need to. And then obviously we want to empower our staff. We want to make their job easier, free up their time to take on more important tasks. And that just makes them feel better about what they do. Now, one of the ways we can empower both our staff and our clients is by addressing things here like common points of frustration. So let's go ahead and talk about that a little bit, right? Like we talk about the suite life, right? We've got that suite. It's one platform. It means that, my staff only has to deal with one product. That's all that they have to know. My clients have one experience that they can draw on as they do all those various items. So one of the things that can leave people feeling less empowered is when we have outdated processes that seem to be stuck and we're not doing things to, improve upon them. So that's one of the things that we want to do, with our automation, is we want to take some of those, we'll say, outdated processes and kind of bring them into the 21st century and see where we can find efficiencies and, things that we can automate to kind of take off that plate of us actually having to do. We're going to explore what does and doesn't work for both tax professionals and your clients, and the benefits of being able to use a single platform. That's one of the things that we've seen throughout the accounting industry over the years, is things have, migrated. 20, 30 years ago, we had our tax product and it was separate from our accounting product, and it was separate from our payroll product. And then the accounting industry and the software providers really work to link those together. So when I do, the balance sheet in my accounting product, it'll dump into the tax return. I don't have to rekey that. And that's the kind of stuff we're talking about with automation. And then, of course, we want to empower both the staff and the client. And that's what we're going to talk about in this webinar, is how, the SafeSend Suite can provide a simple, secure, intuitive, tax process for both the client and the staff. Now, one of the things that we've had for a long time has been portals. Portals been around for 20 plus years. And when they originally came out, they were really more of a storage and access utility, right? Hey, the client needs to be able to get something. I want to make it convenient for them. I'll put it in the portal. And then if the client needs a copy of their tax return, they can just go log in there whenever they need it. And that also is great about getting something out of the office. But clients have always struggled with portals, especially with usernames and passwords. Now, as we talk about the digital client experience, let's go ahead and take our third polling question, and let's see what percentage of clients here or firms represented here today are doing digital delivery, and with what frequency they're doing that with their clients.
Okay, our third polling question is, what percent of tax return packages did your firm send digitally, like via PDF, to clients this past filing season? And so the ranges are 0 to 25%, 26 to 50%, 51 to 75%, 76% or more, or there's a non-applicable if you don't do tax returns. And so far, the numbers are coming in looking like a pretty steady cross-section.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's interesting. There's about a third of the people who are in the 1 to 25% range, and a quarter of them are in the 20 or 75% up, and kind of an even mix there, and 26 to 75% there. And I think that's a good thing to see. That's what we see probably across the board with accounting firms. When you talk to firms, everybody's got some aspect that they are. Some of them are more advanced in terms of sending out digital documents to their clients, and some of them are less. And a lot of times it has to do with their client base. And if it's a rural community where people don't have internet access, or if it's a urban community where everybody does, and just kind of the comfort level with technology within any specific client base. All right. And it looks like pretty much everybody's answered the question here. And like Gail said, it's a pretty kind of U-shaped mix that we have in the crowd today, with about a third of the firms doing 25% or less, and about a third of the returns are firms doing 75% or more. That's
All
great.
right.
Now, when we talk about experiences here, right? When we're talking about simplifying the client experience and simplifying the staff process, there's always a circle of frustration. And with portals, I already mentioned one of those frustrations, which is, you get it out there, the client struggles with the username and password. But here you can see, some of the items that clients do get frustrated with. When it comes to putting it in the portal, how does the firm get that file into the portal? What does the firm have to do with that to get it into the portal with the various things that the clients need? When the client receives the email, how does that get generated? Does it go out automatically? Do I have to say it? The client clicks on the email, they go to log in, they have to download files. And sometimes clients, depending on, the ecosystem they're using, if it's Apple or Windows, they'll struggle with get those PDF files. Now, when clients go to get in, they forgot their username and password, especially for clients that are doing this once a year. Usernames and passwords are really hard to recall. And then they're going to call you and ask, hey, can you reset my username and password, because they struggle with it. And then, it gets kind of bounced around. Hey, who has time to deal with that? And often, kind of the tech person in the office who ends up fielding those requests. So they go through, they process it, they send it back out to the client. Hey, here's your password reset. The client tries to do it. They have some struggles with getting that password reset. And then they just kind of reply back and say, hey, can you just send it to me as an email? So, okay, it's 3 a.m. I'm just going to send it to you as an email, but I'm still going to go ahead and password protect it. And then the client gets that, and they say, oh, hey, I want to send it to my banker. So instead, can you send me a copy without that password? And just out of frustration, people just go ahead and they send it out anyway. Here you go. It's not password protected. You can forward it off. And that kind of blows away your security. And then, it's just one of those things that none of us want to have that. So we want a solution that's simple, that clients can get into, that addresses a lot of these issues. And that's what we're working on here at SafeSend. Now, I mentioned we want to reduce that frustration in the remote experience. A lot of us pre-pandemic, we kind of dabbled maybe in digital delivery a bit, and then the pandemic came and we really had to ramp it up because all of a sudden offices were closed and we had to find a way to make it work. And so many of us did that. We found a solution that we could send something and have the client sign it. We could post something to a portal or a solution, and the client could access it from that. But now we're really at a time where clients have started to enjoy that. Clients don't like to drive through 8 inches of snow just to sign a tax return. So, now, hey, you know what? During the pandemic, you sent it to me. That was really convenient. Can we keep that going? So we really want to go ahead and make sure that we elevate that experience or take that experience to the next level, because that helps the clients get it done. And that means that they're not going to be calling the office. That's going to free up our time as well. Excuse me. And then, of course, we want it to be easy to use, right? That's one of the things that we saw that's always been a struggle with portals. Clients don't necessarily find them easy to use. And so we really want something that kind of guides the client through the process and really empowers that client to take care of the things that they need to be able to review the returns and sign documents and, access the information that we're sending them. Now, there are challenges to electronic delivery. Regardless of the system that you use, you're going to run into certain problems. And, with email, right? You send something as an encrypted PDF, it's usernames and passwords. Sometimes with mobile devices, clients are struggling with that. Clients lose the ability to read the instructions, and, you can't just give it to them in a logical presentation. So that's the kind of stuff that we want to make sure. And then, of course, there are times when if I just send something as an email, if it needs signed, the client's got to print that out, go through, sign it, and then find a way to get it back to me. With portals and secure file exchanges, clients have struggled. Again, that username and password, it's always been an issue. And then in terms of the industry overall, the industry is finally accepting the fact that 35% or lesser clients are going to adopt a client portal. When I talk to a lot of firms, they've been using portals for well over a decade, and they're still struggling to get clients on the portal. And they'll tell me, oh yeah, 20, 30% of my clients use the portal, but the other clients were just sending things in email because they just can't seem to make the portal function for them. And then when it comes to e-signing, right? What do you need to do? What are your requirements in the e-signing that you have to have? You want to make sure whatever solution you're using is meeting those IRS requirements. And a lot of times with an e-sign solution, it's only solving one part of the problem, right? When I send that return to the client through the portal, they've got access to it, but they still need to sign the 8879. So that's where my e-sign solution comes in. So now I've got 2 utilities, the client's getting 2 deliverables. They're trying to remember which email has what so they can go through and do what they need to do. And that's what we want to do. We want to give the client one spot where they can go and handle all that information. That also helps your staff, because when the client calls, they don't have to go into utility A or utility B. It's just one utility where they can access all that information, address the client's questions. Now with e-sign, just like with portals, it's got its own frustrations that clients frequently run into. Now, with typical e-sign solutions, your staff, they have to go through the process of grabbing that e-sign utility or grabbing those documents and separating those from the tax return so they can send them out for signing. Then when you send it out to signing, what happens with your married filing joint returns? Do you have both emails? Do your taxpayer and spouse share an email account? If not, yeah, you've got both those emails, you're good to go. But when the clients don't both have separate emails, that's when we tend to run into some issues. Now, excuse me. Now, when it comes to sending it out, a lot of times, depending on the system, you either have to go through and create templates for your documents, or as you're sending things out, you'll have to drag and drop those signing boxes and place them where you need the client to go ahead and sign. And then the firm has to send that signing package separately from the tax return. So the client's got to go ahead and review the return, then they have to go into something else and sign it. And that's very foreign, especially if it's a client that's been used to the paper, because when I have my paper copy of the return, everything's in one spot. I get that chance to do everything. So we want to do that in a digital environment as well for a client. Now, one of the big issues too can be spam, right? I send that document request out to the client, it goes into the spam folder. Well, depending on my solution, sometimes those time out by the time they find it in spam. So then I have to go ahead and reprocess it, send it back out to the client again. Now, once the client's in there, they've got to go through KVA, and that can be a trouble spot in and of itself. The clients get those questions. Sometimes they have struggles to remember, what those answers are, or other times those questions are very few. I've got 3 questions. I have to get them right. Well, I get the question wrong, and then I have to reach out to you and say, hey, failed KVA. What do I do now? Now, when the client signs, you got the taxpayer signing, you got the spouse signing. They both need to sign, through their own processes. And so, say the taxpayer signs, then it goes to the spouse, and the spouse has the same spam issue, and then it expires, and then you have to do the whole thing over again. Excuse me. Now, sometimes you'll have a client where, the married couple will mix the signing. One will go through and e-sign, the other one will print it out and go to mail it in. So how do you handle that situation, when it comes into your office? And is there a way you can prevent that, or, handle it more simple than you do today? Sorry, I apologize here. I don't know what's happening to the slide. All right. Now, when it comes to e-signing does have its own hurdles, right? Common questions, when I'm going to send something out to a client, can the client handle it, right? That's one of the things that we always ask when it comes to digital delivery, right? There's always those clients that are going to be paper-based. 95-year-old Mr. Jones who still has a phone on his wall at home, he's not going to be a good fit, no matter what digital solution you have. And then, of course, when you're looking at a digital solution for your married couples, how does it handle those email situations that do come up with married clients? And, especially the ones that share an email, or those times when you're working with clients and maybe you don't have both email addresses. Now, no matter what e-sign solution you use, one of our best practices is to send a heads up letter to your client to just ensure that the client is basically on the look for that email. So especially if it's a new process, the client hasn't done e-signing before, it's really helpful to send that client an email, because chances are really good that your client is going to see that email that comes directly from you. So then, they're on the lookout. If it does go into their spam, they're going to find it. Now, one of the things as well that you need to look at is the problems that will be created by implementing, an e-sign solution. So it's a new process. How's that going to fit into your workflow? And one of the things firms debate as well is, when I go to send that out to the client, am I going to send everything out to the client, or am I just going to send those signing documents? And if I'm going to do that, what's our workflow going to look like to create that kind of separation between tax return copy and actual signing? And then if you do have them separated, how are you going to break that out so the client has access to the return, but also goes through and handles the signing, or making payments with their tax vouchers, or paying your invoice? Now, right now, the way most firms kind of have approached this client collaboration in a digital environment is really just kind of a piecemeal, right? I've got my portal for access. I've got my e-sign solution for signing. I'm getting things to and from clients from, email. The clients are dropping in the office, for files that are really large. Maybe I'm using secure file exchange, and they're all separate solutions. And it requires my staff to know every single one of these solutions, and clients have to know, these 6 solutions as well. And that's one of the things that we want to do at SafeSend. We want to have one touch point where you've got one solution where you can handle, pretty much all these functions. Now, Gail, let's go ahead and ask our next question, which is basically, when it comes to working with your clients, we'll say online, so to speak, what kind of issues do you run into?
Okay, so this question is, what was your firm's biggest frustration with client collaboration? And the answers are missing basic client information, chasing unsigned forms, usernames and passwords, getting documents from clients, or all of the above.
Yep, I think you're laughing at the same thing I am, Gail.
Yeah.
As soon as the answers start, all of the above just start skyrocketing to the top, which, it makes sense, right? And it's always funny to do this as well, because during certain times of the year, certain things kind of rise to the top, right? But yeah, this time of year, as we're kind of getting ready to gear up for next tax season, that's one of the things that's on your mind. Okay, here, what am I going to deal with? What's going to run into these problems? And, all of the above. And then, of course, getting documents from clients is coming in, and now it's taking the lead here. And that totally makes sense, because what is it that I'm going to deal with over the next, say 2 months? It's getting documents from clients as those tax documents become ready, and I need them to prepare the return. And then, obviously, as we get into tax season, that's a lot of times when, say, missing certain client information, comes up, or especially when I start delivering things, the username and password issue comes up quite a bit as well. But I think given this time of year, these answers look pretty much what I would expect with what's on everybody's mind at this point.
Yep. And we can't wait. It's only a few more weeks till tax season starts.
Well, I think some of us might feel like we could wait another extra week before that starts. But yeah, it'll be here before we know it. Just like it's hard to believe that the year's already gone by as fast as it has.
Yeah. All right. I think we're ready to proceed.
All right. Sounds good. So we want to talk about understanding the new tools that we've got for automation and really how that can empower our staff. So first off, how do we approach that new technology? What do we want in the new technology, right? That's one of the things a lot of firms are doing, throughout the summer when taxes is a little bit slower, especially as we're gearing up for next tax season. How can we standardize things across the board? That's what we talked about with that, graphic that showed all the different ways that we're getting things to and from clients. And if we can standardize that, what efficiencies can we gain? And that's one of the things that we want to do. We want to shrink the amount of time we spend on manual tasks, right? If today I have to take a tax return and print it to a PDF and then take the signing documents and separate that as another PDF and do the same thing with my estimates, that takes a lot of time out. And that opens an opportunity for errors. If we can automate that, that's one of those things where I'm going to save labor. I'm going to reduce the number of errors. I'm going to provide a more consistent, quality to my clients. And that's one of the things that we really want to do. And especially in the digital, remote client experience, we want to give them consistency. We want to give them simplicity because that includes or it drives their buy-in to the system. It makes them happier. And if they're happier, when they call, they're not going to be calling for those questions that they find so frustrating. And my staff isn't going to have to be dealing with so many of those questions. And that's one of the things as well, right? I mean, a lot of us have really been dealing with staff issues. Here at SafeSend, we're trying to hire staff, but just like everybody else, right? You've got that opening out there and you're like, where are the people that we can hire? And I know I was talking to accounting firms back in June who were trying to get staff lined up for this tax season and they were having trouble finding staff. And so one of the things that you can do with, more automation is you can get more done with less staff. So if you can't fully be staffed for tax season, automation offers a way to free up some of those hours so that your tax season isn't so just so grueling. And really that helps with empowering staff and clients, right? If my clients feel empowered, if they feel like they're capable of taking care of what they need without having to reach back out to the firm, they're happier. They feel like they're getting better service. And, if they're doing that, they're treating my staff more kindly and my staff are happier. People walk in, they see somebody who's smiling in the office as opposed to somebody who looks like they've been working till 3 a.m. for the last 16 days straight. And that's what I want. I want to have that happy staff. They're going to interact more cheerfully with my clients, and that's going to make everything better for everybody. Now, when we talk about empowering staff, ultimately happy staff is a win for both the client and the firm. And that's what we want to do. We want to make their job, more effective, right? And the current state of the market is, really hard. Right now, when it comes to retaining your employees, it's as hard as ever, right? What we've really seen with the pandemic is a lot of jobs that people thought this is an in-office job. Well, we found a way to do it remotely. And with that happening, now we've got firms from, New York and LA looking for our employees that are in Tennessee because they're like, hey, you know what? We can offer you a higher salary and you can work from home. And, we're going to do this and we can get the best staff wherever they are and let them work from where they are. So keeping my staff, in my office is really even more critical than it's ever been because that competition for my staff is as high as it's ever been. Now, one of our goals is one touch point for both the internal and, internal staff and the external clients. And that's the reason why we built a utility that's really here for year-round purposes for your clients. Now, when it comes to getting that tax package out, there are certain things that you need, that the firm needs in that package. And that's what we've got here. So when I'm going to send a return out to a client, it needs to be assembled and delivered, right? So can I automate that assembly process? Can I eliminate having to manually break things up? Is it going to give the client the opportunity to actually sign the return? Do I have to add the boxes or can it add it for me? And then when it comes to signing, how much time do we spend trying to track down unsigned 8879s from clients? So is the system I've got, does it have the capability to be able to send automated reminders to the clients? And am I in control of that? Can I jumpstart it? If I'm close to a tax deadline, can I say, hey, don't wait for the automated one, I want to do that right now? And then also we want something that's going to give clients reminders for those estimated payments, right? I talk to a lot of firms, and some firms say, yeah, we spend a lot of time sending out those estimate reminders to clients. Other firms say, you know what, it's one of those things where it's a lot of work and there's really no reward for us, so we don't do it, or we only do it for specific clients. With automation, I can extend that customer service without adding anything to my workload. Or if I'm already doing it, it's one less thing that I've got to do. Now, lastly, or not lastly, but when it comes to entity returns, my 1120s, my 1065s, my 1041s, those have those K1s. How do those go out to the client? Is that something I'm taking on? And if it's something that I'm taking on, do I have a way in my system that the client can do it themselves, or even access those K1s, so that if they get a call from a partner that says, hey, can you give me a copy of my K1? I lost it. Is it something that they can do, or do they have to reach out to me to send that K1 package back out? And then most importantly for the firm, you need to get paid. So, if you send the invoice out at the time the return goes out to the client, is there a way for you to include that with the tax return, or is it something that you have to do separately? And, if I'm doing it separately, or if I'm doing it with the return, is there an avenue for the client to go right from that invoice to my payment system? So, if I have a button on my website that says click here to pay, well, can I send out that invoice with that link that just takes the client right to my payment page, so that they don't have to go through, a second step or go out to my website to actually find the button? So what do we do about all this? Well, we create new technology that automates a lot of those manual tasks, right? The assembly process, that's something that we can build where it's going to go ahead and just take care of breaking out things like my estimates and my signing package and placing those signing boxes. Why do we want to do it? It helps reduce frustration all the way around, especially with COVID when it hit, right? Somebody in the office gets COVID, they're out for a month. So how can I, speed things up? Well, if I've got an automated utility, it's a lot easier for me to step in and help somebody else out, because I don't really have to know, how do I break it down? The system's going to take care of it for me, and it's going to be consistent every time. Automation helps handle those workloads, right? We talked about having struggle with less staff. I just mentioned, hey, if somebody's out, but if you don't get enough staff for the tax season, automation can help ease that workload that's created by not having enough people work for us. And of course, when we say less staff, we don't mean that you're going to eliminate the staff that you have. What you can do is eliminate some of the work that they have, and you can empower them by doing or having them do higher dollar tasks or more valuable tasks to the firm, because, they're not stuffing paper in an envelope. Now they can go ahead and, be on a call with a client and really give them that opportunity to learn and grow, build their skills, within the firm. And that really helps drive their empowerment and their involvement in the firm and their, love for their job. Now, like I mentioned, we're not talking about reducing staff. We're talking about getting more done if you don't have enough staff, or freeing up staff hours so that they can do other tasks, or especially during tax season, maybe just have a couple extra hours at home. And that's going to directly help with staff retention, right? If I can offer my staff a better quality of life during tax season, if I can eliminate those mind-numbing tasks, it makes it easier for me to retain staff. It also makes me easier for me to attract staff. College kids that are coming out of school today, they don't want to go and make the coffee, and they don't want to stuff envelopes. They want to be part of the action. They want to be part of the, revenue drivers in the firm. And if I can eliminate a lot of those mundane tasks, then when they come in, they don't have to earn their stripes like, we did 30, 40 years ago. They come in, they can actually start really contributing to the firm and really helping us, learn and grow. Now, one of the things that we talked about a lot is simplifying the client experience, right? That's one of the things that we want to do. What is the client already utilizing? How can we meet the client kind of where they're at and give them a great experience? With COVID, we had, firms kind of waiting. And that's one of the things I mentioned. A lot of us had kind of dipped our toes in pre-COVID. And then COVID hit, and it really forced us to accelerate moving clients from paper to digital. And when it comes to clients, you have what we call the new digital natives, right? These are people who, prior to the pandemic, they were kind of, okay, technology is cool and I'll do it someday. But then the pandemic hit, and they were forced into adopting technology. And, so now we've got that chance to really take the technology that people have been using and just take it to that next step and give them a better experience. Now, on the client side, just like there's firm requirements, there's things that the clients need as well. Clients got to be able to review that tax return. We want them to be able to approve it. Hey, I've looked through the return, it looks good. And then once that return's good and they know it's ready to go, we need to put them in a position where they can go ahead and sign the return. Now, some firms send it out, client goes through, they review it, they send you a notification. Hey, yep, I looked over the return, it looks good. You can send me the signing documents. Other solutions, I can send it all at once, client reviews it, they go straight into signing. Now, of course, once the client signs, they need to be able to make their payments. If they've got a balance due, if they have an estimate that's coming due, we want to go ahead and give that client a link where they can go right out and make that payment. And then for the entities, we talked about the K1s. Well, we can get K1 distribution out of our office. How much time does it take for you to process and mail out those K1s? Well, I can give the client a tax return, have them sign it, and then if I just give them the K1 packages, they can go ahead and deliver those K1s themselves. And of course, if we're going to do that, we want it to be a simple way for the client to do that K1 delivery. And then most importantly, going back to the invoicing, I want a way for the client to make that payment to me. So is it something I can deliver with the tax return? Can I give that client that link so they don't have to, call the office or drop off a check if they don't want to, but they can easily go out and make the payment? Excuse me. Now, we're approaching the beginning of next tax season. A lot of times firms will send out organizers. So this is what SafeSend does with the organizers. We're going to take the organizer that you have, break out the engagement letter, break out the questionnaire, give the client last year's information where they can go ahead and complete it. And then we're also going to give them that avenue where right from those pages they can upload. So if I'm looking at the W-2, I can upload my source documents right from that screen. Now, of course, once the return's done and I've processed that organizer, use that to complete the return, I need to go ahead and send out that tax return to the client. And that's, again, what SafeSend's going to do for you. We're going to automate your assembly process by breaking it up into these different groupings you see. So we're going to separate the transmittal letter and filing instruction from the tax return, because oftentimes clients are taking that tax return and giving it to a banker. And when they do that, they just need the tax return forms. So we make it easy for the client to just grab those pages that they need. Now, once the clients review that return, we put them in a position where they can go ahead and review and sign that tax return. And we're going to look at that here in a little bit. And once the client's completed the signing, we take them into where they can go ahead and make those tax payments. But those payments that aren't due today, we're going to read those vouchers and we're going to automate reminders to those clients. So you'll set the reminder period, maybe it's 7 days before it comes due. Client gets an automated email from us so we can extend that customer service and give them that great service that you're probably known for and not really have to do any extra work to make that happen. Now, of course, we do have the ability to have that invoice sent out with that client as well. If you have an online payment, we can put that in the system for you. And then the client will get that return, be able to pay the invoice for you. And, finally, those entities, we've got K1 distribution, which is nice and simple for the client. So they can just go in after they sign, they're taken into a screen where they can see their K1s and they can just mark off the ones that they want to send out via email or download the pages and print them out if that's what they'd like to do. So what does SafeSend offer your firm? Well, one, we're offering you a standard process, right? We're going to automate your assembly and delivery. We're going to give you that e-sign utility so something outside of the tax return has that same look and feel for the client. We're going to give you streamlined reporting and tracking. When you send something off to a client for review and signing, you're easily going to be able to see what the status is. As soon as the client completes the signing, you'll get notifications as well. We're going to shrink your assembly time, because when that tax return comes in, we're going to automate that assembly process so you don't have to break anything apart. And then we're going to simplify the client's experience. Our client experience starts with an email because that's what clients are typically using for things. They click on a link and then we guide them through the review and signing process. And finally, SafeSend is going to offer you a seamless product. Being cloud-based, all the clients and all your firm has to do is access a website, and you can do that from any location. So, if you're displaced because of a wildfire or a hurricane, or, it's just winter and you can't get to the office because there's 24 inches of snow, with SafeSend, I can go ahead and process those returns from whatever location I'm at. That also allows me to look for staff wherever they are. So if I find a great staff person and they're out of state, I can hire that person because I've got a utility that they can use from anywhere. So let's take a quick look at what SafeSend's going to offer you, and we'll go through the client experience and the firm experience delivering a tax return. So I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to deliver a return through SafeSend Returns. So here, this is the starting point for SafeSend Returns. Now, SafeSend Returns is a single platform. So here's all my other modules. So there's where my signatures are and my organizers. But this is one thing that I can use to go in and handle all those different touch points for my clients. Now, since most of the people who answered the early poll were using CCH, I'm going to go ahead and take a return here that's from CCH and we'll deliver it out to a client. Now, the way you're going to get it in here is probably just print to a PDF, or it's a product that we have direct integration with. You go through your print menu. And then this here is a warning. I've sent the return before, so I'll click OK through that. But this is where you start. I print that return, say to a PDF. I pull it in here. And then the only thing I really need to do is my first year, I'm going to put in the email address for the client. Now, one of the things we talked about is the email situations that come up with married clients. So with SafeSend, I've got a taxpayer area. Directly below that here, I've got a spouse area. So if I have both emails, I can put in both emails. Now, SafeSend does support if both your taxpayer and spouse use the same email, so you can enter the same email address for both. The way we handle it is we send out a link that's specific to each signer. So taxpayer gets their link, spouse gets their link. So even though they're using the same email, they're both going through their own independent signing processes as required by the IRS. Now, the other thing we can do for you is let you leave one of these two emails blank. A lot of times you work with a married couple, maybe you work with the spouse and you don't have the taxpayer's email. Well, just leave the taxpayer email field blank. When we send this off, you're going to get to see how that first signer of a married couple gets to confirm or enter their spouse's email address if they need to. Now, one of the things that we talked about as well is the automation of the assembly process. And because SafeSend has automated that for me, for my standard return, I can literally come in here, throw in the emails, hit finish, and then deliver that to the client. But I'll click on the group tab so you can see what our automation has done. This is where I can see how SafeSend has broken down that return. You can see the categories that we're splitting out. Here's my transmittal letters and filing instructions. There's my tax return documents. Here's my signing pages. And remember, the signing pages, everybody signs them in the same place. So that allows us to automate the placement of your signing boxes. So there's nothing I need to do with these. Here, you can see where I've separated out my payment vouchers. So my balance due and estimates, we're going to read the content of those, and that's how we're going to send automated reminders out to your clients. And then lastly, if your invoice comes out of your tax package, we'll automatically have that separated for you. But if you're using something like your time and billing system or a practice management system to generate that invoice, well, right here on the invoices tab, I can just print that invoice to a PDF, hit replace invoice and drag and drop it here and send it out with the return. So even if it's not coming out of my tax return system, I can add it to the return and send it out to the client. Now, these other tabs that you see at the top of the screen here, this is the same information as what you saw in the group tab. It's just a different angle. So maybe it's the first time I'm sending a return out. Did SafeSend really put those boxes where I want them? Yep, I can come right here and easily see that those boxes are everywhere they need to be. Now, I'll just hit finish. This will deliver it to the client. And here I can toggle between taxpayer and spouse. And just so you know, typical firms tell us that a standard return takes 3 to 5 minutes to get out the door and off to the client. So you can see I've delivered that. That return here says delivered. And one of the things I mentioned earlier is reporting and tracking. So as soon as I send a return out, it's going to show up here in my reporting. I can see the status says awaiting e-sign. When I send this off and sign it as the taxpayer, the status will update to say partially signed here. And for statuses like these, awaiting e-sign and partially signed, we will automate reminders to your clients. Again, you'll set what that reminder period is. Most firms set that between 3 and 7 days. But when I go ahead and send that off, that's when that timer starts. If the client hasn't signed it after 3 days, let's say, they get an automated email. Please remember to review and sign your return. And then if another 3 days goes by, they get that email again. Please remember to review and sign your return. So every 3 days or whatever that period is I set, client gets that reminder and they're going to get that until they complete their signing. Now, the way the client's going to complete the signing is through this email. So they start with an email that looks like this. And for your married clients that share an email account, right here in the subject line is the signer's name. So if I'm getting this, I see which one's for me, and I can see the one that's for my wife, and I can go into the one that's for me. The branding looks like it's coming from your firm, right? We wanted to talk about simplicity of clients and empowering clients. Well, if I give the client an email that has my firm name and address on it, they know right away that this came from me, and they're going to open it up and start their process. Now, on the client's end, to actually start, they just click here on this link. And then we're going to bring them into a screen that gives them a folder. Looks like what they might actually get that physical copy of the tax return in. When they click here to get started, this is how we've addressed the issues with usernames and passwords. The client's going to put in the last four of their social security number, hit continue, and then they're going to request an access code. Now I'm getting the access code as an email. Clients can also get it as a text. So if you or the client have a preference, there is a texting option. Now, like many clients, I'm going to copy and paste this access code. And sometimes when clients copy and paste, they'll copy more than the access code. So this field is smart enough to strip everything but the access code out, so it's not a stumbling block for the clients. I'll hit continue. This brings me into where I can review and sign. Now, right up here at the top of the screen, you can see we give your client a progress bar. This lets the client see these are the steps involved with my return. This is where I'm at in the process. Now, most importantly on this screen, I've got my refund or my balance due amount. That's what the client wants to know most about, so they see that right here even before they've reviewed the return. To review the return, they just click here to begin. Now on this screen, this is an optional greeting message. I can turn it on or off. I can also customize this. So if this is my client that last year forgot to make their IRA contribution, I can put a note in here. Hey, Mike, fund your IRA by April 15th. But I can put it in bold, red, 72-point font so that it really slaps the client in the face when they come in here and they're not just going to look over it in the filing instructions once again. Now I'll hit continue. This is going to bring me in. Now, if you have the invoice is right here. If you notice, here's my Pay Now link. So the client can click on this, go directly to my payment page where they can go ahead and make my payment. Once they're done with that, they hit continue, and we're going to open up this return so they can review it. So this alleviates any technology issues clients might have if they're trying to open a PDF on, say, an Apple device. All they have to do is scroll through this as they read. Once they've read their instructions, they hit continue, takes them here to the tax return, where again, I can just scroll through the pages as I'm reviewing the return. Now, clients that have a rental or a business schedule, they want to jump to those over here on the right. I can just scroll down through my list, hop over here to my Schedule C, and I can take a look at this. Now, when clients are reviewing the returns, they may call you with questions. So we've made it easy for them to share their screen with you so you can see what they're looking at. So here under Contact Person, if a client calls you, just have them hit Share Screen. You'll generate a security code that they'll key in. And when they hit share, their screen is then presented to you in real time, which makes it very easy to answer their questions and guide them through the answers. And we do have firms that will use this to review returns with clients in a remote environment. Maybe the client's in Florida and I'm here in Michigan. Well, I can send that return off to them. We can go through it together before they sign it by using the screen share. I'll hit continue. Here's where I can sign. Now your client gets 3 signing options. The first 2 they'll always see. The third option is sign or delegation. This is something you can turn on or off. This allows the person who's reviewing the return to forward it off to somebody who's going to do the final signing. Think of it like I'm delivering a return, to a controller of an organization. They're going to review it, but the owner of that business is who needs to sign. So when the controller's done the review, they just hit delegate, put the boss's information in, and send it off. Now, I'm not going to get that call from the controller saying it looks good. Can you deliver it off over here for the boss to sign? The controller can take care of that themselves. Now, e-sign is what most of your clients will do, but if they don't want to do that, we do give them a manual signing option where they can go ahead and just sign that return themselves. I'll click on e-sign. Client's going to put in their date of birth, mark that they reviewed the return, and then for married couples, this is where they're going to confirm their spouse's information. So if the wife's email changed, I can just go ahead and correct it here. If you didn't have my wife's email here, this is blank. I am required to enter that before I move on. I'll hit continue. This takes me into those knowledge-based authentication questions. Now, when I come in here, this is an area that clients typically struggle with e-sign solutions. So we looked at the IRS's requirements, have made the friendliest client-facing e-sign solution that's available in the market, and that's helped us have a 97% success rate. Comparison, industry standard is between 70 and 80%. So vast majority of your clients using our system get through the e-sign. And the reason for that is, one, we only look back 20 to 25 years to generate these questions. So the questions the clients get are quite current. And if they get a question wrong, it's not the end of the story. The IRS says they only need 3 out of 5 right. So we start with a series of 5 questions. And once the client gets 3 of them correct, we take them into where they can sign. But if they miss 1 or 2, it's not going to stop them. Now, if they fail the first set, the IRS allows us to ask 2 more sets of questions so the client can go through 3 sets. And if they do fail all 3, we give them a message, per IRS, you don't qualify for e-signing. When they click OK, we redirect them to the manual signing process so they can still sign the return even though they can't e-sign. Now, when clients complete the e-signing, like most clients do, all they have to do to sign is to click on Start. We're going to walk them through signing just like you would. They hit signature, we pull their signature off the return, or we have a draw option. So if they're using their phone or their tablet, they can use their finger to sign. When I hit apply, that signature is in the system. And now I just next my way through signing the rest of the return. Once everything's signed, I hit continue. That's going to send you that notification if this is, say, a single return, that the return signed. As a married couple, I get to confirm my spouse information one last time. And once the spouse signs, that's when you get the notification that that client is signed. I'll hit continue. This brings me into where my estimates are. And I've got two different estimates set up here. If it's set for automatic withdrawal, you can have it say do not pay schedule for automatic withdrawal. So the client still gets the reminder email, and they just make sure that the funds are in their account, but they're not going to make the payment. If they need to make the payment, they just click on pay, and I get the option to either pay online or I can download my voucher and mail in my check. Now, pay online, like with that invoice link, just redirects the client to that payment page where I can make that federal or state payment through that authority's payment system. Now, when I hit done and hit continue, this brings us into the estimates. You can see we break down the estimate by quarter. And again, the client's got the same options. And in my case, I've got my reminder set to 7 days. So 7 days before that comes due, the client's going to get an automated email from me. Now, when I hit done, it brings the client back to the summary. And now the client has access to this for up to the next 7 years. And there's 3 ways they get back here. One, the email that the client receives, be it the estimate reminder, the signing reminder, or the return delivery email. They all have the link the client can get back here. They can save the link as a favorite in their browser, or perhaps the most popular option is the client's going to call you and ask for a copy. So when they do that, here in my reporting area, I just have to click here in the action column and hit resend access link. Now I've got both of those signers. I can go ahead and send it off. Now that's what SafeSend can do with your tax returns. We've got similar functionality here with those other modules. But really for today, that's our time. I want to say thank you. I appreciate you joining this webinar today. And Gail, if you wouldn't mind launching that last polling question.
Sure. Okay, the last question is, are you interested in learning more about SafeSend returns and the SafeSend Suite? And your options are yes, no, I'm just here for the CPE, or I'm not the right person. So go ahead and answer that. And while you're doing so, I just want to thank you, Mike, for an excellent presentation. We would also like to thank SafeSend for sponsoring this event and making it possible for us to provide a CPE credit to each attendee. We hope all of you have enjoyed this webinar, and we want to thank you all for sharing your time with us today. And as a reminder, you will receive a link to your CPE certificate later today in your email. Look for something from CPA Practice Advisor. If you have any questions about CPE, you can contact me directly at gperry, Gperry, at cpapracticeadvisor.com. Also, if others are watching this event with you at the same computer and they require CPE credit, you can email me their names and email addresses. Again, that's gperry at cpapracticeadvisor.com. As soon as we're finished here, you will receive a post-event survey evaluation form on your screen. We hope you'll take a moment to just share your feedback with us so that we can continue to improve our webinar series. And I think that's it. Thank you, everyone. And our audio is going to end now.